Hey guys, how's it going? It's Fragpole. Just decided to record another video on my insane vice principal at my middle school who threw my backpack across the common room. So it was a Friday, it was getting towards the end of the year, and I was in 8th grade. And I just got off the bus, I was at school, and at my school, the 8th graders walk into the common room, which is the big open room at the start where the front door is. And we're immediately supposed to sit down on the floor, which I didn't like that we have to sit on the floor next to the door where it's dirty. And there's a couple benches in there. And one of the benches, two kids were sitting on the bench, and the bench can fit like four people. And they both had their backpacks on the bench, so there wasn't any room. So I just walk up to them and I ask, "Hey, can you guys move your backpacks? I want to sit down." And they literally just looked at me and just said no. And so I just kind of stood around waiting. I didn't want to sit on the floor because there was an open bench, and I figured if stood long enough, a teacher would come over and like they would tell them to move their backpack because you're supposed to sit down immediately, or else the teacher, or in this case, the vice principal was on duty, and they would walk up to you and then tell you to sit down. So I waited. The vice principal walked up, and I hated her. I previously had hated the vice principal. I'd never run into her, but I didn't like her. She was not really a kind of person I liked. She was not very polite, and I'd say she was not very equal in the punishments she handed out to different people. And I was just waiting. I was just standing around waiting. She finally walks up. She looks at me and she says, "Fragpole, why aren't you sitting down?" And I just look back at her and I say, "I want to sit on this bench, but these kids have their backpacks on there. Can you ask them to move it?" And in a little bit of a stern tone, she says, "No, sit on the floor." And so I was not very happy that I was talked to so sternly when all I asked was for her to ask them to move their backpacks. It doesn't seem like that's an unreasonable request. And I just told her, "Why do I need to sit on the floor if there's an open bench? There's just some backpacks on it." And she looks at me very angrily and she says, "Do I have to get Officer Yada Yada to move you?" I don't want to say my school officer's real name. And as I said, "Why do you need him? I'm not resisting. I'm just being a little ignorant and asking you to do a very simple action." And she says, "Where's your stuff?" And at that point, I already set my backpack next to the bench because I figured they would move their backpack. And I pointed to my backpack, which was near me. She picks it up, and my phone was in there, and just chucks it, like throws it 3 feet up, like 10 feet long, just throws it across the common room. And I was lucky enough, nothing broke. But after that, she pointed at it and said, "Go." And so I immediately picked up my backpack and I just turn around and I just look at her. And I could see that she knew what she did. And then I started walking towards the principal's office because he's the only other person who has power over her. And I could just see the regret in her face. And she was high heels every day, and we have, concrete floors at my school. So when I was walking up the stairs, I could just hear at the bottom of the stairwell just of her high heels. And so I just walked up and went to the principal's office. I asked them if I could speak to the principal. They said no, he was at a meeting right then. So I went to the office to call my dad because you're not supposed to be able to call anybody if you're not in the office. And so I asked him if I can call my dad. And for about 3 minutes, I had been trying to call my dad, and I actually do have asthma. I've been trying to call my dad, and the vice principal, walks up, and after 2 minutes, she just like been in there for a minute. I was in there a minute before her. She says, "Fragpole, you've been up here too long. You need to go down and wait in the common room." And I told her, "No, I need my inhaler. I forgot it at home." Which my asthma's not that bad. I don't need an inhaler. It just shortens my stamina. And so they can't tell you no. I've learned if you say you need to get like some sort of medication from home, they cannot tell you no. And I abused that policy. And so I told her I needed my inhaler. So I kept calling my dad. And the bell did ring at that point when I was trying to call him. And, I was supposed to go to class. But then she actually looked at me. She's like, "Fragpole, you have to go to your class now." And I told her, "No, no, I need my inhaler." I said it exactly like that. I literally said, "No, no, I need my inhaler." And I don't know why. I just liked how I said it. It was funny at the time. And so she told me I can go in her office to call my dad because there's better reception in there. So I go in her office, and right outside of the door, as soon as I close the door, I just hear right next to the door. So she obviously ran right up to the door to listen to what I was saying to my dad. So I just, called my dad, told him what happened, and he just said, like, are you sure, like, this is worth my time to come off, like, go there from work? And I told him, yeah, because I actually hated the vice principal. I wanted to get her fired. And so my dad actually got off work, and they sent me back to class. And at this point, I was telling everyone what happened. Half the school saw it. Half the school saw her throw my backpack. So, you know, that happened. And I was just telling everyone I could. They told me don't tell anyone about it, and I just told everyone. And it spread like wildfire. Everybody was talking about it at that point. And a lot of people didn't like the vice principal, and I for sure didn't. And so about 2 hours later, my dad gets to my school from work because his work was kind of far, and he goes in and he talks to the principal for a while, and then about 2.5 hours after the incident, I get called up to the office. So my dad's already in there and he's already talked to the principal, and apparently my dad had said what I said to the principal, and so he asked me to repeat it to him, and so I just said what happened. I said, she threatened me with a school police officer, which was unnecessary, and then she threw my backpack when I wasn't wanting to comply with her requests. And so they basically told me the principal was trying to like threaten me with that. He was like, if you're lying, we can not expel me, but I think they said like a 2 week suspension, like 10 days suspension if I was lying. And I literally told them, no, go check the security cameras. I'm not frickin' lying. And so they they sent me home. Or not, no, they sent my dad home. They sent me back to class. And so my dad just told me, like, hey, the school's going to call him about whatever happens. And so I went back to class. And it was I wish, what happened. I wish she got fired. But they called the security desk, and security desk sent them the security footage of the time in the common room. And the principal looked over it and he called my dad and he said that I was correct. Everything I said was true. And so he then told my dad that my dad could pick the vice principal's punishment. And at that point, I would have gotten her fired if it was my decision. I hated her, and I don't think that's good of a vice principal to throw a student's property. That's not very nice there. And so apparently my dad said that all he wanted was for her to give me a sincere apology. Well, 3 years later, and I am yet to receive it. My dad specifically said he wanted her to apologize to me sincerely with another teacher there to verify that she did it. The next day, when I was in my locker getting my stuff, she walked up to me and said, I am sorry I threw your backpack because your phone was in it, and then just walked off with her little high heels. And so, yeah, that was the last time she ever. Actually, that wasn't the last time she ever tried to, communicate with me. She always tried to talk to me in the hallway like I was her friend, like I was nice to her. And no, I hated her so much. And it bothered me how she tried to talk to me like I liked her. I didn't like her. Nobody liked her. And I wish. And she. Okay, the worst thing is my high school and middle school, they're not attached, but they're next door to each other. They were planning, because my principal just retired, they were actually planning on making her my school's full principal, making the middle school's vice principal my high school's full principal. That would be hell. I am happy that I'm away from her. I do not want her to come back. I want her away from me. I want her as far away from me as possible. I really, really hope that next year, because it's summer, I really hope they do not hire her as my school's principal, because I hate her. I don't want it. But one thing I actually forgot to mention earlier was after I got out of the call, like out of her office, talking to my dad, she started talking to me. She called me over to her, and she said, like, I was just trying to not let you sit next to those boys because they're a bad influence and you're a good kid and they're not good people and they could I think she said specifically, I'm pretty sure she said they could corrupt my morals. And I was just like kind of pissed at that point. I'm like, yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure. You're just trying to save your job at this point. And so yeah, that was the last like conversation that I had with her, that me and her both talked to each other. Because after that she tried to talk to me and I would just be like, hell no, go away, I don't like you. And so I wish she got fired. She didn't. You know, middle school, I hated middle school so freaking much. Middle school is just hell. And yeah, it wasn't very fun. I hated middle school. Luckily I'm in high school now, so that's something at least. And that's kind of really the end of the story. I hope she doesn't get hired at my high school, but there's no guarantee that she won't. Uh, I wish there was a guarantee that she wouldn't be hired at my high school, but sadly, there's no way for me to check that. But thank you for watching and listening. Let me know if you have anything else in the comments that's similar to this. But yeah. Also, last time somebody tried to hack my account. Yeah, well, not necessarily hack it, but they wanted me to subscribe to them, and it's the bot scandal. Just look up YouTube bot scandal. You'll find what I'm talking about. Some people like use a bot that comments like, "Oh, let's be friends," or like, "Loved your video," or like, "Loved it," and then they try to take control of your account, and then they try to make you subscribe to them. And yeah, it's a whole scandal. Yeah. Luckily, I didn't fall for it. I almost did, but some very nice Russian man on the internet just literally told me, like, he sent me a link to it because I saw him on Discord, and I'm like, hey, he's got the same like logo as the same like user picture as the hacker. So I didn't know it was a hacker at that point, and so I talked to him. I'm like, oh hey, yo, were you the one that commented on my video? He's like, nah, nah. I just used the same picture as some hacker. And I'm like, pardon? And so he told me about it, and luckily I immediately unsubscribed from those people and I blocked them. So yeah, thank you guys for watching and listening. And if I don't post again, my account got hacked.